Have any of you guys ever stopped and thought to yourself, why is every movie these days a remake? Why is every song these days a remake? Why do buildings get torn down and then built up worse than the ones before? Is technology going backwards?
We're sending you back to the future!
Also, to be honest, why are so many movies actually getting worse? And why are comedians not as funny as they used to be?
Do you ever laugh?
Not really.
That's so sad. What do you do?
I'm a comedian.
But yet, we're constantly told that as a society, we're progressing forward more. So something doesn't make sense here. Either we're being told some lies, or we're being purposely manipulated and deceived to push us towards an agenda that doesn't actually benefit us. I have some thoughts on the subject. So, can you guys handle the truth as to why every movie is a remake? Why our creativity as humans seems to have gone out the window? Why even McDonald's doesn't look as nice as it used to? And this isn't me supporting McDonald's in any way. This is just me looking at the society as a whole and seeing some things that don't add up. So can you guys handle the truth?
I want the truth!
The truth? You want the truth?
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Let's get to the video now. What's happening, guys? Jared Weiss back here with another video on the Jared and James channel. If you guys didn't know, that must mean that you're not subscribed to the channel, so you know what to do. Click that subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know what you guys think of this video. Follow me on every platform. So, as you guys already know, for today's video, we're going to be talking about this idea of why creativity seems to be non-existent these days, and why everything seems to be getting worse in spite of the fact that we're sold on this concept that technology is improving and our society is improving and that we've made all this progress. But why doesn't it look that way? Let's find out now. So first off, just to reiterate, if you guys have noticed, seemingly every movie gets remade 5 times.
When you're walking down the street and you see a little ghost, what you gonna do about Ghostbusters?
What is that?
That's the Ghostbusters theme song.
No.
I'm pretty sure it is.
These are not just simple remakes.
And actually, when you think about it, like basically every 20 years, you get the same movies being recycled and redone, and every song also has had multiple remakes. I mean, I actually saw this one video on my TikTok feed the other day that showed there was actually this one chorus from one of the most well-known songs that first went back to the early 2000s, I believe. Then it went back to like the 1980s, and then before that it actually went back to like the 1950s. So what's going on here? Furthermore, why is it that we have to turn in textbooks when meanwhile we're told that our history is one story and there's no questioning it? This is just what happened, and if you think differently, you must be the crazy one. And why do we have all these old world buildings that we see, or massive cathedrals which are beautiful, which are incredibly crafted, but yet we're told that these days we don't have the technology to do the same things? So you're telling me that in the 1800s, with horse and buggy technology, which is the narrative that we're told, these people were able to build these massive structures in basically no time, in basically the span of a few months, and that these people were our size and had limited technology?
It just don't add up!
So like, one of the funniest comments that I actually got right after having Sean Hibbler on the podcast, when I was posting about all these old world buildings and the stories that don't end up, like such as these massive buildings that were built in supposedly 6 months to a year, that these days, and I've actually spoken to construction workers, RJ being one of them, who claims that these same buildings couldn't be built in 12 years these days. But the comment that I kept getting is that the people back then worked so much harder and the labor laws were different, so therefore it would have been easy back then.
Huh? You know what I mean?
People, be real. Come on. Use your brain. Stop letting these other people think for you. Now, the first answer to all these questions as to why movies get remade, why songs get recycled over and over again, why textbooks get rewritten, why our history gets rewritten, the main reason for this is demoralization. Because when you have a society who's being told that we're progressing at light year speed
to infinity and beyond,
be yet what we're all seeing with our own eyes is that things are getting duller, the movies are getting worse, the songs are getting more satanic. What does this make us think in our heads? That if this is the way it is, if this is what progress means, then I don't believe very strongly in this culture.
Well, I ain't buying!
And I think that, like, I'm gonna go along with this one world government tearing everything down, or this one world religion, and I'm gonna buy into whatever the people in power want to sell me next. because I have no reason to believe that us normal people are capable of doing anything bigger and better than our ancestors did, or even than the people 20 years ago did. So demoralization is a big reason for all this. And when you understand all the social engineering and this programming that's being driven into all of us, when you demoralize the people and when you break their spirit, when you break their will, whether it be from caging in the mind, whether it be the whole education system, whether it be the mainstream news always being so negative.
With our utter annihilation imminent, our federal government has snapped into action.
And furthermore, as I learned recently from Dr. Regenerated, another incredible account out there, he was talking about how if you look at every logo even, the McDonald's logo, the Burger King logo, and the restaurants themselves, in addition to all these other companies, whether it be Nickelodeon, MTV, 20 years ago, these logos actually looked much brighter, much more vibrant, and much more inviting. And once again, this isn't me supporting any of those companies or anything like that. I understand all the darkness behind it. But if you're seeing happy colors, a vibrant society, this makes you want to be a part of it. And this makes you want to work for it, and it makes you believe in human progress.
America, where any man can make quick money with no questions asked.
But on the other hand, if you compare all those things now to what they were 20 years ago, this makes you actually look at it and be like, I don't want to be part of this society. This culture sucks. And if these famous people aren't able to improve upon these things, then who am I, this lowlife, who's being convinced that I'm not special because I'm not an expert or I'm not a celebrity?
You're a nobody.
How am I going to make a change? Demoralization number one, boom. It's all about destroying the old world.
You have been officially outmoded.
Outmoded? Well, that's fine.
Destroying our past and slowly but surely building a compliant, non-aggressive, brainwashed group of people who are going to go along with whatever comes next, because what's going on right now doesn't have a reason to be salvageable. But when you see all the bright, vibrant colors on our phones, and then you go out into God's creation in the real world, and you see all these dull, drab buildings, logos, commercials, what does this make you want to do? It makes you want to spend less time in nature, less time in the real world, and it convinces you that humans can't build as great of things in the real world as they can in this digital virtual world. So this is definitely a massive conspiracy, I believe, which is to get people out of this amazing real world, get us to believe that we don't have the power with our own hands, with our own minds, to build incredible, and to get us into this digital world where we're easily controlled and essentially powerless. Number two, the second reason why I believe that our history has been erased, all these things have been distorted, buildings have been torn down and built up worse than the ones before, music has been made worse, lower frequencies, and our culture as a whole has been more destructive, more low vibrational stuff being promoted, is because it's easier to control people who don't know their true history. When you sell people on this whole Geneva Convention and the whole Rockefeller Education Board, which was all about deceiving people, teaching everyone everything about nothing,
And it's about nothing. Absolutely nothing.
creating this mandatory education system where all of us get taught these lies, and where all we're shown is George Washington's wooden teeth, as opposed to understanding what the truth about the nature of our reality is. When we don't understand how powerful we are, when we don't understand our true ancestors, when we don't understand the history of the Nephilim, all these biblical truths, the truth about God creating us as his most special creations, when we don't understand our true power, then you're more easily submissive and you're more easily controllable. When you convince people that we've progressed so far and yet so many of us are still being indoctrinated, so many of us are under these brainwashed spells, it's confusing.
I'm confused.
I mean, you tell people that we've come so far as a country, but yet everyone could see that so many of us are still divided. We're all being sold the whole pharmaceutical industry. When you don't know how powerful you really are, and that you didn't just come from monkeys, and that bones don't turn to oil, and that we didn't just come about by this big bang and random evolution, which makes absolutely zero sense. When you realize that all those things are lies, and when you understand our true history, then you would understand that being a subject to these rulers and to worship celebrities makes absolutely zero sense. So that's why they have to keep pushing this false history on us. That's why they keep having to tell us that we came from apes and that we live on the spinning ball. Know your true history, know how powerful you are, and then all this other stuff gets pushed to the side and we overcome all this divisiveness and all these issues. Number three, the third purpose of this remaking of every movie and every song and tearing down our past history to hide it from us is to get rid of our shared history, because families and the family unit thrives on having a shared history, and this way the older generations are able to pass down wisdom and knowledge onto the newer generations.
Your mind is like this water, my friend. When it is agitated, it becomes difficult to see. But if you allow it to settle, the answer becomes clear.
And one thing that Sam Tripoli often talks about is this idea of the Little Mermaid suddenly being black.
She's black. You have no idea how difficult it is for a black woman in a white man's world.
I don't think we should be talking about this.
Now, of course, I'm not racist. I, along with Sam Tripoli, have no issues with the Little Mermaid actually being black. But the issue is, when you have one movie that was shown to one generation as one narrative, and then future generations see different movies with different narratives, you have no common things to be passed along between generations. So this creates less discourse within the family unit, less wisdom being able to be passed down to future generations, and more reason to just turn on the TV every time you're with your family or friends because you guys have no common ground to speak about. Number 4 is to once again convince us this idea of progress, but inverting the definition of it. Because progress obviously means moving forward, coming up with new ideas, coming up with better ideas. But if movies aren't as funny, if comedians aren't as funny, when you're changing the definitions of words, when new buildings look worse than older buildings, and we're being told that the technology got worse. For instance, Dom Pettit is this buffoon who's always saying how the reason why we can't go back to the moon, even though if any of you guys have ever actually done your research, we never went to the moon, and chances are the moon isn't actually something that can be landed on. But he always says, we would go back there in a second, but we lost the technology. You're telling me that in 50 years since then, the technology's gotten worse? Come on. And then in the same breath, they want you to believe that we can no longer go to the moon because doing that is too dangerous, or I've heard some people say that there's just nothing exciting on the moon. So you know what we can do though? We're gonna go to Mars. Even though, for those of you who know, all this footage that NASA tries to show us of Mars is really just Devon Island in Canada. And then taking that one step further, they want you to believe that 100 years ago, when all these people were backwards in the wild, wild west, horse and buggy, but they were able to build massive cathedrals in basically no time. But then now we don't have that same technology, yet we're progressing as a society. Once again, I believe that any new technology has been around for over 100 years before. It's all just being hidden, much of it being hidden in these DUMBs or deep underground military bases. But most of all, as RJ often says, the real technology that we need to be working on and developing is actually the wetware in our brains.
I may be small, but I've got a big brain.
And we need to be thinking for ourselves more. We need to be understanding all the deception.
Oh, the deception! The betrayal, man! You deceived me!
Understanding the reason behind the lies, which is why I have so much fun exposing them and asking these questions at the very least. And one more thing I want to add when it comes to this idea of the reason why every year the kids don't get to take the textbooks home and why you always have to return them, and then the very next year you get a new one, is because how else are you gonna slowly erase history? How else are you gonna slowly erase the shared knowledge between people? How else are you gonna create a new timeline? And how else are you gonna slowly deceive everyone into believing that we're all less powerful than we really are? That's honestly a big part of it. Changing textbooks, changing definitions, removing words, removing verses in the Bible, manipulating religious texts. It's all part of that same agenda. So anyways guys, let me know your thoughts on this topic. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree. Let me know if there's any other reasons that I missed as to why everything gets remade and why it all gets remade worse than it was before. Understand your true power, understand your real history, do your research, think for yourselves, question everything, and stay curious, my friends. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace!